The film begins with is in a strange-looking mansion, chanting something like a spell, and she is currently summoning a demon named Orlok. Suddenly, this demon appears and talks to Lenny, telling her she does not belong to the world of the living. Therefore, he must take her with him now, by her neck, and she starts convulsing. But my friend, summoning the demon. The important thing is that Lenny is currently with her husband, Thomas, who clearly loves Lenny very much. We learn that Thomas and Lenny got married very recently. Now, Thomas leaves his wife Lenny and goes to work. Thomas works at a real estate company owned by a strange and suspicious person named Nook. Now, in conversation, we learn that he wants Thomas to travel to a remote and completely unknown village. There, Thomas is supposed to meet a strange person named Count Orlok. Thomas is supposed to meet him in a castle located in the village there. The idea is to sell him a castle located here in the city. Nook promises Thomas that if he can accomplish this task, he will be made permanent in the company, and not only that, he will also get a salary increase. So, my friend Thomas considers this an unmissable opportunity and agrees to it, and he and Nook make arrangements accordingly. After that, Thomas goes to Lenny and tells her about this new job opportunity he got. But unexpectedly, Lenny is not happy at all and is worried about this trip, especially since she has been having bad dreams the last few days. Despite her concerns, Lenny asks Thomas not to go on this trip. But Thomas acts as if he didn't hear Lenny and tells her that he is definitely going on this work trip. After that, Thomas takes his wife Lenny of Thomas and also a relative of Lenny. Currently, Thomas is talking with Frederick and asks him to let Lenny stay with him for a while until he returns from his trip. Frederick agrees and accepts to look after her during this period. Afterwards, as he talks with Thomas, we learn from their conversation that Frederick is very wealthy because he is responsible for shipbuilding in the city, and supposedly he has lent Thomas a lot of money. Now, Thomas promises that he will return from this business trip and pay off all his debts because it is an important trip for him. At the same time, we see that Nook is Thomas's manager at work. He was sitting at home, casting spells and talking to a demon named Orlok. Orlok is informed that Thomas will be sent to him. And we start to feel, my friend, that Nook is a servant of the devil. Orlok supposedly sent Thomas so that Thomas could be a medium for him to reach the city. Not because Thomas was supposed to sell him a house as we initially thought. And of course, Kid will confirm all of this later on. The next day, Thomas bids farewell to everyone, takes his horse and heads towards the village where Count Orlok is. After not too long, Thomas finally arrives at the village where Count Orlok is. As soon as Thomas arrives at the village, he goes to a hotel there, meets the hotel owner, and asks to stay the night because he plans to meet Count Orlok the next day. As soon as the hotel owner hears the name Orlok, he becomes very frightened and decides not to let Thomas stay at all. But Thomas tells him that he will pay double the amount. So the hotel owner is forced to agree. Then an old lady comes and takes Thomas to the room where he will sleep. This lady talks to Thomas and advises him not to go to the house. Count Orlok, if anything happens. At that moment, Thomas doesn't quite understand what she means, but he doesn't care and goes to sleep. And when he sleeps, Thomas dreams that the villagers are taking a girl to the cemetery to bless her from there because she is about to get married, and they take her. The villagers are at a specific grave, Count Orlok's, and open it, strike Orlok's corpse, causing blood from his mouth. And suddenly, Thomas wakes up because all of this is just a dream. Nothing more than that. When Thomas wakes up, he goes outside and finds the village completely empty. Thomas is puzzled, but he doesn't really care. After that, Thomas starts walking towards the Count's castle, which is located here in the village. While Thomas is walking, he suddenly sees a carriage coming to a stop in front of him. This carriage has no driver, only horses. So Thomas realizes that it is meant for him. Of course, Thomas is a bit surprised, but he gets into the carriage, which starts moving with him. After a short while, Thomas's carriage arrives at Count Orlok's castle. Although it's a very grand and massive castle, it feels eerie, and you get a sense that something is wrong. The important thing is that Thomas enters the castle and meets Count Orlok, who is not much different from his castle because he is a strange and somewhat frightening man. Then Thomas goes to sleep and dreams, seeing himself in one of the rooms of Count Orlok's castle. He finds himself going to the mirror and sees strange wounds caused by rats. Of course, he wakes up startled because it was all just a dream. Thomas wakes up again and now goes to sign the house contract with Count Orlok. The Count gives him a copy of the contract to sign. Thomas is puzzled by the language of the contract, which is completely incomprehensible to him, but he is told that it is the language of his ancestors. So Thomas doesn't really care and signs it without actually knowing what he's signing. At that moment, he tells him, "You will stay here tonight," and then leaves him and walks away. Left alone, Thomas notices, some wounds on his body and realizes they are the same wounds he dreamed about yesterday from the rat. And this, by the way, scares Thomas a lot. So he decides to leave and starts wandering around the castle looking for Orlok here and there to let him know that he's leaving. But Thomas can't find Orlok at all. While Thomas is wandering around, he finds something like a cellar. He goes down into this cellar and finds a tomb. He opens the tomb. He is shocked to find Orlok inside the tomb, who is of course dead. Thomas is extremely terrified. The problem is that suddenly, it starts to stand up as a corpse. It comes after Thomas until it reaches him and knocks him down, and now it starts drinking his blood from the rat bite wounds. And we learn, my friend, that this method, where Orlok sucks people's blood, gives him immense strength, so he can move and so on, because he is actually dead and possessed by a demon, not a human. Meanwhile, we see that at the same time, Lenny, Thomas's wife, is having very bad dreams, and we see Orlok sucking her blood. In reality, we see that Lenny is very, very sick, and Frederick's condition is due to Orlok's release, as he wants to come to her now, just like she summoned him in the past, as we saw at the beginning of the film, if you remember. The important thing is that we return to Thomas again, and he currently understands the cycle he is in, and escapes from Orlok's castle by throwing himself into the water. But after a short while, a nun finds Thomas on the shore and takes him to the church where she serves. In this church, they treat Thomas for a while, wherein a nun from the church comes to talk to him. This nun tells Thomas that Orlok is dead and that during his life he was involved with black magic. And when he died, the devil inhabited his body, but he was trapped inside a castle. But it seems that Nock, Thomas's boss at work, sent Thomas to Orlok to make a deal with him and free him. And now Orlok is heading to the city since he has been freed, to be with anyone who summoned him, like Nock or like Lenny in the past. Thomas becomes very worried and leaves the church, even though he is still sick, to go to his wife Lenny in the city and protect her. By the way, we see that his body is being transported on a ship, and on this ship the plague spreads and the entire crew begins to die. And we find out that this is not an ordinary plague, and supposedly they didn't just die on their own, but it was Orlok who killed them so he could drink their blood and gain strength, as we mentioned before. In any case, we return to the city again and currently see that Nock, Thomas's boss at work, is going insane and is admitted to Dr. Seward's hospital. This surprises Seward, so he goes to Frederick and informs him that Nock has been admitted to his asylum and his condition is exactly like Lenny's. He keeps saying that the devil is coming and so on. Seward tells Frederick that it seems clear that a devil is indeed coming to this city. This devil was unleashed through Thomas and is coming specifically for Leno and Lenny. The biggest evidence of this is Lenny's dreams and her significant hallucinations, and for a long time they have known that there is a colleague doctor named Franz who is knowledgeable in the paranormal world and thus can help them very well. Frederick is pleased and decides to go to Franz to consult him. Indeed, after some time, Seward and Frederick go together. Franz decides to help and takes himself to Frederick's house. There he examines Lenny. After the examination, Franz informs everyone that Lenny is possessed by a demon named Orlok because she apparently summoned him by mistake in the past, and he tells them that Orlok was released because of Thomas and without Thomas even knowing. And now he's coming to the city for Lenny, and Franz tells them that he will stop him and just asks them to take care of Lenny for the time being. Then he leaves them and goes. After a short while, the ship carrying Orlok arrives in the city, and the ship is destroyed, with no one on board. Frederick comes now to see it, and when he sees this, he thinks that the plague has spread on the ship, and everyone on it has died. Frederick doesn't know that all of this is not because of the plague, but because of you, Orlok. By the way, we currently see that Nock can sense that Orlok has arrived in the city, Mapatay, so he kills one of the hospital guards, escapes, and goes to meet Orlok, the demon. Orlok, by the way, is annoyed with Nock for summoning him and tells them that they need to reach Lenny, so Nock agrees to this. By the way, again, we see that amidst everything happening, something nice occurs, as Thomas arrives at Frederick's house, but he is very sick. However, despite that, his arrival makes Lenny and everyone happy. After that, we see that Franz and Sivas went together to the body of one of those who died on the ship that was transporting Orlok's corpse, and they currently discover that this person died because of the plague. Yes, but Franz knows that this is not an ordinary plague spread by rats, but a virus spread by the demon Orlok to increase his power and to destroy the world, spreading darkness everywhere. Franz says that they need to reach Nook and find out the type of spell he was casting, and then they will be able to stop Orlok. On that same night, we see that Lenny was sleeping with Anna, Frederick's wife, because she is currently afraid to sleep next to Thomas due to his illness since he returned. The important thing is that while Lenny was sleeping, she suddenly feels movement and gets up to see what's going on. They are now surprised to find Orlok the demon in front of her, and Orlok starts talking to her. From their conversation, we learn that a long time ago, Lenny had neither a friend, nor a husband, nor anyone, so she decided to summon the demon Orlok and marry him. But then she left him. This drove Orlok mad, so he decided to reach her through her new husband by having Nook send her husband Thomas himself, under the pretense of selling a house to Orlok. But in reality, Orlok had Thomas sign a deal in which he relinquished his wife Lenny to the demon Orlok, Ituane, and he informs her of this. Orlok is now spreading the plague to destroy the entire world so that he and she can rule the world together. Orlok makes it clear that she belongs to him and he will never let her go to anyone else. He informs her that within exactly 3 days, if she does not willingly surrender herself to him, she will be forced to do so against her will. He will kill everyone she loves if she does not agree. He also tells her that today He will kill the first of her loved ones because it is the first night. Orlok leaves her now and walks away. The next day, Lenny wakes up from sleep and wonders, who am I eating from? And of course, she has been afflicted with the plague. And of course, this is not an ordinary plague, but an epidemic spread by Orlok, the devil. In any case, she becomes very, very ill. After a while, Frederick arrives, and when he sees what has happened, he immediately calls Lenny and tells her that he wants her to leave his house immediately. She and her husband Thomas, since they came here, have been spreading disasters everywhere. Of course, Lenny is very upset, but she takes Thomas, despite him being ill, and they leave and return to their home. The next day, we see that Franz and Sievers decide to go to Nock's house, and they manage to find the spell that Nock was using to summon Orlok. Franz in fact figures out the way to kill Orlok, which is by going to the village where Orlok's castle is located, killing him there, and destroying his grave. On that same night, we see Orlok entering Frederick's house and killing his wife and 2 young daughters, because tonight is the second night Orlok promised. Therefore, he had to kill someone dear to Lenny, as he told her. The next day is the funeral for Anna and her 2 daughters, and everyone is there. Lenny, Thomas, Frank, Sievers, Frederick, and everyone else. Of course, everyone is saddened by their loss, especially Frederick, who lost his wife and daughters in one day. In any case, after the funeral ends, Franz talks with Sievers, Frederick, Lenny, and Thomas, and he informs them that he has figured out a way to deal with Orlok. Everyone agrees and says they will go to the castle and finish him off as Franz suggests. But you know, my friend, Franz was lying to everyone, because right now he is talking to Lenny alone, and he tells Lenny that she must be the one to kill him by herself because no one else can do it. Because, to put it simply, she is the one who summoned him, and Franz knows that she will die with him and sacrifice herself, but she will protect all of humanity from the plague he has started spreading everywhere. Franz knows that today he will take her husband, Thomas, under the pretense that they are going to kill him. But in reality, he will go to Lenny at her house and she must kill him. So Lenny agrees and decides to truly sacrifice herself so that everyone else can continue living. After a while, everyone discovers that Frederick has disappeared. We currently see that Frederick goes to his wife Anna's grave, and he emerges from her grave and holds her, so that he too gets infected with the plague like her and dies, because he cannot live without her. After not too long, Thomas and Franz arrive at Anna's grave and find Frederick dead there. Naturally, everyone is saddened by his death. At night, Franz and Thomas go to the castle intending to kill him. They go to his grave and open it, but instead of finding him, they find Nock, because Nock had given his soul. Of course, first they kill Nock, and now Thomas asks Franz about it, and Franz learns the truth that he will go to Lenny, and she is the one who will kill him. Thomas is very shocked and leaves everyone to catch up with his wife Lenny. At this time, we see that Lenny is dressed in a bridal outfit waiting to marry him. In this way, she will destroy the spell she cast earlier when she summoned from the beginning, and then both of them will die together. Indeed, not much time passes and he reaches Lenny, so she marries him just to destroy the spell. A few hours after all this, Thomas Franz arrives at Lenny's place and finds Lenny dead in his arms. And of course, Thomas is very, very upset because he lost his wife. As for Franz, he knows that his wife Lenny's sacrifice was not in vain. In this way, she ended the spell and the plague that is spreading everywhere now, due to people getting infected. And with that, my friend, the movie ends, and I hope you enjoyed it. And that's it.